I think for me, one of the things that like is so important about this work is finding projects you genuinely, feel like, hey, I want to push a little bit harder. And this is one of those projects that when we started working with Sakkara, I've known Micah for a long time, and we've always tried to work together, and there's always been this passion that I feel like we've connected on, but we have yet to kind of work on a project. Consistently, the music is always really good, but it's the excitement of getting together and working with someone and just that collaboration process that gets me excited. Around the time that we worked together, we were kind of in a phase of doing a lot of work that was good visually, but it wasn't exactly meeting the mark for us. And with this project, we did 3 different videos, but the lead video was this Paralyzed song. And I want to kind of go through that, unpack it, and share why it's exciting.
Talking, hey, Shay. Cara, see me, scene 4 and take 6, marker.
So we have a strong build up in this song, unlike the other 2 songs that we worked on. I wanted this one to have a subtle narrative, but be heavily focused on just beautiful visuals for the band. The other 2 songs are more aesthetic driven. They have more story beats, and they're a little bit more cinematic in a storytelling way. The bigger picture here is this chase for fame, this desire to be seen, loved, and appreciated, and some of the things that we'll go through to kind of chase that joy. So this song, I wanted it to be more about getting inside the head, the internal critic, and the feelings that we have and the isolation that we often feel. So the box, yes, cool visual, 100% easy peasy, been wanting to do something like this for a while. But symbolically, I wanted something that felt more isolated and something that could stand on its own and be more minimalistic. So that way when the viewer sees this, because to me, this is the best song they have. It checks all the boxes of the things that they're great at. Beautiful singing, beautiful vocals, some rock influence with this pop touch. With it being more of a pop influenced band, I wanted to borrow from more of a metalcore sort of style with these darker rock vibes in the video. So starting off, she's waking up in this box alone. That's kind of the whole setup of this story. And then we go into some band performance shots. Fantastic performances here. She's wandering around. We have this multiple effect going on. Now we have the box. We're introducing it. We're going to step out of the box. And stepping out of the box, it's getting outside of our head. It's exploring some of the darker parts of ourselves, the things that, we're challenged with, the things that we're worried about. A lot of this, yes, it's visual. Yes, it's pretty and it's beautiful. But I also wanted to, hey, what does it feel like kind of dealing with ourselves on a day-to-day? We have the band as the main focus here. We have this box and some creative things that we've done with the box. And this effect here, I'm going to talk about this just from a cinematography standpoint. Obviously, we're wrestling with like our truest self, the person we want to aspire to be, our actual self. This is just a lens prism effects, kaleidoscope handheld filter. We did this locked off shot. We did a handful of these shots that were handheld and moving around. And just kind of floating this in front of the lens to add this extra effect. Like, this is just a locked off shot that I had post-production motion into. And we really just coached Haley to like, hey, feel this performance, act this way, match the lyrics. And I'm going to add this extra handheld effect just to add a little bit more style points to this and give some visual interest to a relatively simplistic frame. And a small touch here too is like we have Haley in 2 different outfits. It's a very similar outfit, but we wanted to. I like to add visual variety, so it's not just the same thing over and over. There's a time and place to be super consistent and hit the nail in the box. There are other times to do subtle little tweaks that don't seem like a lot, but they do add some characteristic of anytime we're in this vulnerable state here, it's more performance in the sense of reacting to the lyrics and the emotions, whereas the performances that we have of Haley here standing up in this purple flannel, it's more of just performing the song as you would expect live. Yes, there's a motive side to it, but this was more of like, hey, just give us a standard traditional performance. In these other shots, let's be more creative. Let's be more emotive with our body language, with our hands, and not be afraid to miss some lyrics and almost react to them. One of the things too is you see with these band shots that have motion, we were on like a dolly. Some of them I did handheld, but being able to just kind of float around and parallax through the cube adds this visual variety that you kind of see. This is we peek around her, and one of the things is like, we wanted to show the darkest side of ourselves. Obviously in our head, there are inner demons. They're the things that we're challenged with. That's the first reveal right there, is we kind of drift around her and we reveal something behind her. I like to build anticipation and not give too much away. Even when you spend a lot of time getting a character, and attire and makeup and all the extra things. Leah did such a killer job with Haley, our contortionist, makeup and attire. And it looks phenomenal, but it's one of those things that's like, if you give too much of it away, it loses that specialness. And, from a viewer standpoint, you want to keep people engaged. Visual consistency goes a long way, but also from a storytelling standpoint, obviously we don't have this crazy narrative, but it's moving the needle along and keeping people engaged to say, I want to see a little bit more. I want to see a little bit more. And serving them that up in small dishes and creative ways. So we're back to the box all alone, and we're moving the story along.
Fall to my knees, 'cause you make me weak. Vampire, take my soul from me. Then suddenly, I couldn't speak. I got lost in...
So there's one of our first really cool shots. We did when we shot this, I took it in Photoshop and I did some set extensions to kind of make this a little bit wider. And it was just really fun to, take a basic shot and then be able to make a set extension. And then what that allows for is you to add this post-production movement, not to get too techie, but through like an adjustment layer, be able to add in the post-production zoom in and zoom out. So it feels like this static image becomes a kinetic image with a lot of energy in it. And truthfully, while that might seem complex and crazy, I'm not a VFX artist. I'm a video editor. I like to do as many hard cuts as possible and keep things in Premiere Pro. So for me, I'm always looking for ways to make things look technical and creative while actually being very simplistic, easy to render, fast to edit.
In those memories, love me, hate me, can't take it, my heart slowly decaying. No.
Another thing here too, not to keep interrupting, but like, this is our first time ever working with Haley, Micah, and Tommy in like an actual on-set experience. And it looks like a pro music video. And that's not by accident. We've been doing this for a while. And one of the things is like, you can light things, you can make all the set looks amazing. And truthfully, because we were doing 3 videos, our first video of the day, we spent a lot of time coaching and getting them comfortable on camera and giving them, the pointers to look great on camera. And what's funny is, day of, full transparency, I had 4 hours budgeted for this portion of the shoot because this was the main video. And because we spent so much time on the first video and the coaching and making sure those performances looked right, we only had an hour and a half to capture this video. So yes, we did all the pre-lighting, we had things set up, and we had a space that could work for multiple looks, which saves a lot of time and allows me to use the crew in that way. But one of the key things that looks so phenomenal in this video is their performances. Micah, Tommy, and Haley are all so good. And with that, we didn't have to do take after take. I did literally less than 6 takes of any of these motion shots around them. And then each one of the locked off shots, it was 1 take each. And that coaching goes a long way in not just making the video look amazing, but being able to say, hey, we had 4 hours, now we only have an hour and a half and we got to cram this in. We've gone through all that prep work to where now this video, we know what we're doing and we can work more efficiently. So part of this looking like a great video, and I'm patting myself on the back here, is it's taking the time to coach and not just make sure the lighting and the lensing and all your moves look really good, But to make sure the talent moves the same way and matches your energy, it makes your job so much easier as an editor or as a cinematographer, because now really anything that's happening is looking really, really good. And it's just a matter of like, hey, keeping my camera smooth, making sure I like the way my motion is going, and then I'm following the emotion on screen.
Up all night, I stay wasted, haunted by all of these faces. Sometimes
So this is a key moment of this video that I really, really, really love. And it's the only time I use this ghosting holographic effect. And to me, the song Paralyzed is being stuck in your thought, being paralyzed and not being able to move forward. So, fight, flight, or freeze, we're in the freeze state here. And oftentimes we can get stuck in this freeze state. I didn't want to overly use this effect because I think it does look a little cheesy, if I'm being honest. But I love this part of the song, and it felt like the moment pretty close to the center that I was like, let's embrace this effect. Let's freeze each one of the characters, and let's just kind of make this one spot feel unique in itself. In the past, I feel like I've always looked to create visual consistency with effects, color grades, and everything like that. Whereas in this video, and a lot of videos lately, I've been looking for how do I make one section feel really unique without feeling corny or on the nose. And this is one of my favorite sections of the song, and a great usage of an effect that I'm really proud of. And it started off as just experimenting around, trying to say, how do I create this effect and this feeling? And, I tried a few different things on motion shots, and I was like, it needs to be on the cube. The cube made the most sense, and this effect just played really, really, really nice here. So I'll rewind here and we'll go a little further.
all these faces. Sometimes I'm feeling out of my damn mind, lost so deep, terrified. I can't sleep, awake in a nightmare, waking up to those eyes, got me living a damn lie.
I'm starting to show the demonic character, the alter, the monster version of Haley a little bit more. And how I wanted this story to progress, and what the takeaway is oftentimes we have to face our inner monsters. So as you'll see, the monster gets closer. We see a mix of emotions through Haley, which I feel like, this is just my personal opinion, I'm projecting my vision here, is like embracing the inner monster is hard. It's difficult. It's scary. And sometimes it makes sense to be fearful, but other times we have to embrace that and be there for that monster, that inner monster for ourselves. And when we embrace that, that's when we can kind of become our fuller self. So where we're trying to go with this story is less about like, ooh, spooky monster and scary, and more so Haley learning to embrace her inner monster.
Left me really hypnotized, I can't escape my mind, I'm paralyzed.
Another little fun thing there is like you see on that little drum fill and everything, like I didn't capture the footage that way. I'm just moving around. I'm actually staying pretty static in terms of distance. When we're shooting, I'm usually manually pulling focus. But I'm just moving around. I'm keeping a pretty similar distance from all my characters over and over. That way my focus stays really sharp. And in post, I'm adding a lot of like post-production zoom-ins to add more energy to these shots. So shots already look really good, but it's taking these little extra small touches that are like, it takes it from like, that's a great shot, but that feels like, if it was a 7, we just made it a 9. And, as an editor, it's like, there's so much I can do as a DP, but then being able to come into post and like really take something and be like, dang, we shot that really well, but editing it just took it to that next level. And I think that's one of the funnest parts in this line of work, but also as an editor, is like where you can really just take something and be like, wow, this is cool. Like I'm really feeling jazzed with these small decisions that stack up to make it feel really phenomenal.
Damn mind, lost so deep, terrified, I can't sleep. But
all right, I love the bridge. Anytime we can make the bridge feel really, really special. One of the things that I'm probably known for is taking the time with lighting. And again, I said we did 3 music videos in a day. So with that, you got to move quick. You don't always get to do all the things. One thing to note here is the lights you're looking at, because we have multiple sets and we have multiple things to do. I'm not using the most expensive RGB nice lights. This is just a color mat over top of this. And I've adjusted the opacity to be color burn, and I've tweaked the grade to kind of make this look like realistic red lighting. That's one of the things, like when we were shooting it, I really was like, man, for the bridge, I want all the things to be shot with this red lighting. When you don't have the time, you can't do those things. We have one key light that was up above. It was a 600C, and I did intend on being able to change that and program it to red. But because we were running out of time, we had to do a location change. I actually had to send my gaffer over to the next location, and I didn't have access to change that. So we just kept everything clean, and in post, I took a red color mat to kind of color grade this and make the bridge still look good. When you have consistent lighting, that works in your favor. And it was one of those things that was really fun to kind of tackle, make it look as natural as possible. And it just shows, like, just because you don't have all the tools, you don't have all the perfect things, there are still creative things that in post can go a long way. I will admit, effects like this can go cheesy really, really fast. And I think a lot of it is just understanding how that color works. I am no master colorist. To me, it's like finding that good enough and feeling that out. A lot of this came from, the color wheels and being able to kind of move and shift those colors around to feel a little bit more accurate, getting your mid-tone shadows and highlights just right to where the exposure feels like it matches. Anytime you do an effect like this, you lose a lot of exposure. So it's bringing that back without adding a lot of grain. One of the key things that I ran into was making sure the shadows felt right. When they were pure black, you started to see a lot of the grain. And being able to tweak it a little bit and add some blue to it, it complements that red in a really nice way. It makes the blacks actually feel very believable, and it hid a lot of that grain in the process. And at the tail end of this, when we transition back in, I actually added some imperfection in with taking the color mat off a step earlier and actually bleeding over the color grade into the other color grade with a cross dissolve, and then having our effects actually blend out and not doing that all perfectly. We're in post. I can literally make things line up exactly right. I actually offset them a little bit to make it feel like the actual transition of someone hitting, from a red to a real life. So it felt like a real lighting cue versus just perfection that you can actually achieve in post. And for me, that's part of the fun of this, is like, how do I make it feel believable? Even sending this over to some of my crew, they're like, wait, I don't remember us actually lighting this in red light. That's the response that I really love to get. Again, this was one of those fun little things of experimentation of like, let's have this one section that feels this one way and feels just right. So continuing onward.
Waking a nightmare, waking up to those eyes. Got me living a damn lie. Left me reeling hypnotized. I can't escape my mind. I'm paralyzed. I'm paralyzed. Stuck in my mind. I'm terrified. I'm paralyzed.
And as we're building up, at that bridge, that was when she finally embraced her inner monster. So I start to really tease that away. And the idea here is that, we start to go into more portraits of Haley, the singer, just by herself. And the idea is that by accepting that inner monster, you become your truest self, your ultimate self, your best self. And that's what growth is about. So again, coming back to this whole idea of the theme of the band is like, it's about chasing fame. It's about this idea of getting attention and the things that we have to do. But this song is about when you're by yourself, when you're alone, when you're isolated, what do you actually have to do to love yourself, to become your best self? So again, the rest of this, we start to see less of the monster. And as we're closing out the song, I still want it to be powerful. So where I started to shift gears was adding in more of the glitch effect, adding in more motion with the cube, and just closing this video off. And it's still a really strong and powerful way, and still staying more focused on, the singer's video portraits. That's it. That was Paralyzed by Sakkara. This is one of my favorite videos that I've got to edit recently. And again, I'm just very happy to share this. If you have any questions or any, more technical details, I'm always happy to answer those things. But really, I just wanted to kind of share the thought process, the way we kind of approach doing some of these things and the creative decisions that we make, because I feel so often we're putting out, this work that visually looks good, but it's unpacking a little bit more and understanding where those decisions come from and why we spend so much time getting to know our artists, getting to know the meaning behind these songs, and then crafting that into art that actually means something beyond just looking visually beautiful. I think a lot of people could look at this video and say, oh, wow, it's visually beautiful. That's awesome. But it's a part of 3 videos that tell a larger story about, what it takes to really make it, to gain attention, to chase after the dream, and how hard that can be on us mentally and physically. So I hope you like this. This was a blast for me to kind of break down. And again, if there's any additional questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'm happy to answer those and address those things. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.
I'm feeling out of my damn mind, lost so deep, terrified. I can't sleep, awake in a nightmare, waking up to those eyes. Got me living a damn lie, left me reeling, hypnotized. I can't escape my mind, I'm paralyzed.